We are now live. You fucking maniacs. Would anybody like me to show my boobs for a change? No?
I've seen your boobs.
You have. I think everybody's already seen my boobs, right? They're not that impressive, so let's just not even worry about it. Who was that? Inky Pinky Boo? Has anybody signed on yet?
Trying.
Hi, Brianna. Hope you had fun at the party. We are about to get into Underworld.
Oh, just need.
Actually, let me put this behind you.
Okay.
There we go.
Alright, so close that one.
How's Nessie, my kitty?
Nessie? Mm-hmm. Who's got a kitty named Nessie?
Inky Binky does.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What's your cat's name?
Nessie.
Oh,
Nessie.
okay.
I
Right on.
love her.
I hate cats.
Oh, she's
I
a
hate 'em.
black,
I hate-
beautiful kitty.
I hate everything about cats.
Nessie hates me too.
They don't like me at all. I'm allergic to them, amongst other things.
Yeah, I was in
Oh,
there
there you go.
petting her. She was so cute.
Bye.
Okay, by the way, you can let Jerry know. I blow up the font just for him.
Yeah, Nina.
As if I'm having like some kind of a... I can read. Well, except for, no, that one time she said it was in like a super small font. Violet, if you're watching, you don't have to blow up the font just for me. Just don't use the super small font that you used the first time. Because that was a little... I mean, I'm an old guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you can see the gray coming in here. But, you know, the eyes are the first to go, they say.
The eyes.
Yes. Well... Above the waist.
There's a reason why they make Viagra for
Hey,
men.
ooh. I'm not there yet.
Don't need to blow up that
Nope.
font.
No. I still have a Xvideos account that I use on a regular basis. If anybody cares. All right, inmates. Thank you for joining us. We're about to get into Underworld from 2003. This is going to close out Cake Wolf's Action Horror Month. And for those of you that didn't know, this is today is October 30th. Today is actually the 7-year anniversary of the Padded Room podcast.
Yay!
Thank you all very much for joining us in this nutsack of a journey.
Yeah, and we'll be here for another 70 more years.
70.
Ooh.
That's gonna
I got 6 years.
that's gonna make me like 112. Oh, I don't even want to think about it.
Well, you run. You're very healthy.
I try to be, but I feel like this podcast has taken some time off my lifespan. Okay, let's get this party started, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Boo, 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 boo. Okay, here we go. We're talking about Underworld from 2003. We just got... Oh, it's because none of our mics are on. I was the one to do it this time.
Yeah.
And it's 7 years. I'm technically a veteran, and I still can't remember to turn my microphone on. Okay, we're talking about Underworld from 2003. This one came in at 7 stars on IMDb.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It stars Kate Beckinsale, Scott Speedman, and Shane Broley. It's directed by Les Wiseman and written by Kevin Gurneau. Anybody recognize that name, Kevin Gurneau?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds familiar.
The scariest black man in this movie, that's Kevin Gurneau.
Oh,
Okay.
He actually...
with
the
that
big
voice?
wolf?
Oh, yeah, the big wolf.
Oh.
He actually wrote this thing, too. How cool
Oh,
is that?
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think he did like all the comic books and all the sequels and all that.
Oh,
guy.
impressive.
Very impressive.
I would just have a heart attack if he was in
He was
werewolf.
just standing around.
In werewolf mode,
Oh, God.
coming at me. I'd be like, ah.
I would have a heart attack if he was just coming at me, not even in werewolf mode.
Oh.
This guy's gonna hurt me. So
Hi, Alan.
Alan's in the house. What's up, Alan?
Hi, Shelly.
Shelly, how you doing?
Hi, guys.
Good to see you. So I'm sure we've all seen this on multiple occasions by now. It's 15 years old, and it launched an entire Underworld franchise. So the pretext of this is that there is a 600-year war going on between vampires and werewolves. and it has to do with their shared lineage and the history thereof. So our story is going to pick up with a death dealer, played by Kate Beckinsale. She is like a foot soldier for the vampires, and her only job is to hunt werewolves all day. And from what I gather, she's pretty fucking good at it. She is like this whole. Where does this story take place? Do you suppose? Somewhere in Europe, right? Because when
Yeah, let's just say
London, maybe.
Maybe.
There wasn't a lot of accents, though.
no.
Well, there was probably more American accents than English accents. I don't know.
Just a secluded place in Europe.
It's Europe. It's a big city.
Somebody will tell
Somebody's
us.
got to know.
Hi,
what
Stephen.
Stevie, where did Underworld take place? Can you tell us that? Because we don't know. Somewhere in Europe, obviously, because when Amelia shows up with her envoy, they talk about how they came from across the pond from the United States. So it's clearly not here in America. Anyway, so Celine, Kate Beckinsale, is like the biggest, baddest death dealer around. Now, the death dealers right now are a dying breed, and the reason for that is because the war is drawing to an end. There's less and less werewolves, more and more vampires. It's pretty much done and over with, is what we're thinking. But she spots a few, and she's like, I gotta find out what these guys are up to. So she's watching them, and she sees them follow this human guy into a subway. She goes down into the subway with her partner, I guess, or her fellow
Budapest.
death dealer. Budapest is what we're saying?
Yep.
I'll buy that.
Oh my God.
Good call, Stevie.
Stupid.
Crying Jordan for me because I didn't know where Underworld took place.
Yeah, and I should have known better.
She's
so
from
there.
Budapest,
Yeah,
for Christ's
so-
sakes. Did any of that look vaguely familiar to you?
No.
No,
No.
of course not. I don't think it was actually filmed in Budapest.
Probably set.
Yeah, looked more like it was filmed in Gotham City than anything
That's
else.
what I
Yeah,
was thinking.
wherever The Crow took place. That's a good place for it. So they follow the wolves. Follow this dude down into the subway. Celine and her partners go in after the wolves. Big firefight takes place. Now this is action horror at its finest. What do you think? Like 90% action, 10% horror.
Yeah.
More to the point, and with a light dusting of romance.
Yes.
What was that?
Was it yes?
On the romance? Was it
Yes.
hot? Do you think it was hot romance?
Oh yeah.
What was hot about it?
Well, she's hot and he's doable.
I mean,
I couldn't wait for it to happen.
but you don't get to see anything.
I know.
And all it is, it's that. Remember,
But the buildup was there.
a couple weeks ago we were talking about the rain and how it gets chicks all fired up. There it is. Rain through the whole goddamn movie. These chicks are horny as shit, Stevie. Anyway, so big firefight takes place. Lots of bullet time, matrix moves, people doing back spin flips. The wolves lose track of the dude in the firefight, and they go hauling ass into the subway tunnels. The vampires chase them. They kind of get separated a little bit. The wolves actually manage to kill one of the vampires and take another one kind of hostage, but they end up killing him very soon. Celine manages to kill one of the wolves. Now, when she kills the wolf, she takes his gun and pops open the magazine and sees that the bullets in the magazine are all glowing now. Ultraviolet rounds, dude. That's a good way to kill a vampire right there. Somehow they put ultraviolet light inside the bullets, and now they're shooting vampires with it.
Not good.
Not good. But the werewolves also, or the vampires, I should say, have silver rounds. And right now they're just silver slugs. So they just go in and, that's that. That's pretty gnarly. She goes back to her coven, or they call it a coven. It's like a big, ostentatious mansion. It's like the world's shittiest, most pretentious nightclub in there, right? A lot of people just, sticking their noses up at everybody else and stuff. They're vampires. They're typical vampires, a lot of smoking, a lot of... I don't know. I imagine there'd be a lot of art critiquing going on. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck you talk about. You're a vampire. You're 600 years old. What could you possibly have to say to anybody?
Nothing.
Oh God, just go. Just get out of here.
Just
go.
have cocktails.
Yeah. Well, you can't even do that. You got to drink blood. Can you put alcohol in the blood? You suppose? I hope so.
I would guess
Dude,
so.
put something in there, man, because this place looked boring as shit. All they're doing is sitting around the living room. That's it. Be a vampire. Go out and chase somebody, for Christ's sakes. I'm going off on a tangent. So, she's all fired up now. She comes back and she goes and sees her weapons expert, a guy by the name of Khan, and shows him the ultraviolet rounds. And she's like, hey, dude, we are in big trouble because now they got these fucking ultraviolet rounds. And he's like, well, I got something for them. And he shows her his new bullets, silver nitrate bullets.
Yeah.
So it's like a gel bullet, a gel round that goes in you and then, pumps you full of silver nitrate. That's a good way to kill a werewolf, I would imagine. So that's pretty creepy. Now we're going to cut back to the werewolf den. Now, Celine followed them deep enough into the subway tunnels to kind of get an idea where they were going. And when she followed them, she happened on what she thinks is like a whole den of werewolves. And the only reason she thinks that is because she followed them and then she heard a whole bunch of other voices. And she's like, oh shit, there's like 10 or 12 of them in there. I don't want any part of that. So then she hauled ass. Now we're going to cut to the werewolf den. There's probably, what do you think, 15, 20 of them?
At least.
Maybe.
Yeah.
There's a pretty good group of them in there. And they're having like a weird homoerotic werewolf fight club thing going on where they're naked and they're fighting each other. And as soon as the boss shows up and he's like, hey, you guys are acting like assholes, they turn back into regular dudes and they're naked. This was one Zima Chardonnay away from going full Brokeback Werewolf on us, inmates, is what I'm telling you.
Brokeback werewolf.
Brokeback Werewolf. It could happen. I don't want to see it. I mean, no, I don't want to see it. I thought I was going to preface that with something, but no, I just don't want to see it. I'm good. So she's like, hey, dude, I think there's a whole nest in there, and we gotta go in there and clean them out because now they got these ultraviolet rounds. These could be a big problem. So she goes and talks to her boss, a guy by the name of Craven. Now, Craven, dickhead, but I think by the end of the movie, I think we can all agree that he was actually the good guy, right? No?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Why not?
He's just a dick.
He's a dick. I'll give you that. He's a dick. He's trying to get on Celine. She don't want any part of that. And he acts like a dick. But he is the only one trying to bring peace to this situation. Really. Am I wrong? Really?
I think he just wants to be in charge.
He does want to be in charge, but if he's in charge, that means the war is over.
We don't want peace.
We don't?
No.
I do. Give peace a chance, brother. Give peace a chance. Anyway, I'll get to my theory on that in a minute. So, he's like, "Hey, we're days away from the envoy showing up, and we've got work to do, and you're chasing these wolves around." And she's like, "Hey, man, that's a real threat down there. We need to get a team together and get down there and clean them out right now." And he's like, "Fine, but not you. I'm going to send my crony here down there to do it." So he sends his team, and then they come back, of course, empty-handed. Now, what happened, though, is that during the initial firefight there in the subway, she managed to snag a camera off one of the dead werewolves. She plugs the camera into her laptop, starts looking at the pictures, and we get a better picture of who this human was that they were following. Lo and behold, it's none other than Scott Speedman. She runs his face, she does an enhance on his face, and then runs his face through a facial recognition thing, and finds out who he is. His real name is Michael Corvin, and he is a medical intern there in Budapest. So she tracks him down to his apartment and pays him a little visit. This pisses Craven right off because she's supposed to be getting ready for the highfalutin vampire party, or whatever you call that, and that is not happening. She gets there. We're still in Gotham City, so it's all gloomy and rainy and shit. She gets there, kicks the door open, grabs him, and he's just like, "What do the werewolves want with you?" And he's like, "Werewolves? Lady, are you on drugs?" And she's like, "No, I'm a goddamn vampire." And he's like, "Oh, actually, you are on drugs." But then the werewolves show up right there at that moment. And they're pretty upset, I would say. They're climbing on the ceiling and the wall. I thought that was dumb. Did you guys think that was dumb?
Yes.
They're on the walls and the ceilings. They look like just trying to be spiders or something. They're werewolves, not spiders. Celine, being the badass that she is, pulls her 2 machine pistols and just lays waste to these guys. But they keep coming and they've got her cornered. So in another move that I thought was kind of silly, she does a twirly twirl and shooting the floor around her, and then goes right through the floor down to the bottom. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's actually a thing or not. Doesn't seem like that would work really. But whatever. I'm willing to write that off. As that's happening and all this confusion, Michael hauls ass to the elevator, gets in the elevator, and goes down to the ground floor. Just as his elevator opens, we see that boss werewolf guy just standing there waiting for the elevator to open. As soon as he sees Michael, he just takes a big old bite right out of him, right in the shoulder. Celine has now plummeted down to the first floor and then unloads on the boss werewolf guy, who takes a couple of those nitrate rounds to the face and chest. And then she goes and grabs Michael while he's out, and then they go hauling ass. Mm-hmm. Now, this is where we see the boss werewolf. He wakes up and spits a bunch of Michael's blood into a little vial and puts it in his pocket. So, from there, we're going to follow him back to the werewolf den and find out what he needs Michael's blood for. Mm-hmm. Now, this isn't explained until later in the movie, but I'm going to go ahead and break it down for you right now. So, during the initial Black Plague of Europe, there was a royal family by the name of Corvinus. The father contracted the Black Plague. I think his name was Willem Corvinus. And his body somehow, morphed the plague into something else, and he then became immortal. But he maintained his humanity. So I'm guessing he just can't get killed. Or he just doesn't age or something. We're going to meet this guy later in the franchise, but it's not really pertinent to our story now. He had two sons, Marcus and another guy, and one was bitten by a wolf and the other one was bitten by a bat, and thus we now have vampires and werewolves. Mm-hmm. Immortal, shape-shifting, blood-sucking, all that crap. Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, that's how the vampire bloodline is, and the werewolf bloodlines have kind of come to a figurehead there with this guy. So what the werewolves are doing is they're trying to find a descendant of the original Corvinus bloodline, Michael, and they need his blood because they're conducting experiments on it. So we see they've got a little Nazi doctor guy. I don't think he was a Nazi. He looked very Nazi-like,
Yeah.
did he not? He looked like a goddamn Nazi. And he's conducting experiments on all these random Corvinus guys that they're bringing in, killing most of them. And what they want to do is kind of intermingle the bloodlines. They want to create something or somebody that would have all the strengths of a werewolf and a vampire, and use that dude as a secret weapon, I guess, against the vampires, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool. Now we're going to cut back to Kate Beckinsale. She is taken off with Michael, and they're hauling ass, and that's all well and good. Unfortunately, she got lit up a little bit in the initial fight there, and she's losing blood and stuff, which I didn't think a vampire could actually do. But because she's driving and she's losing blood, she loses consciousness. The car flips off a dock and goes into a lake or the ocean. It goes into a big body of water, and she's now unconscious, and Michael has to save her because, what is she going to drown? He doesn't believe that she's a vampire right now, I think.
Right.
But he pulls her out of the car, and they swim to the surface, and then he takes her ashore, and then he passes out, and she's still unconscious. So she regains consciousness first, apparently before the sun comes up, and takes Michael back to the old pretentious nightclub hideout there, mansion.
Does the sun come up?
We never saw the sun in this entire fucking movie. I think this was actually Barrow, Alaska, is what it was.
Maybe.
30 Days of Night in a shitty nightclub. Apparently they have that in Barrow, Alaska. I don't know. I don't know what's going on up there in Alaska. So that's pretty crazy. They wake up the next day back at the mansion, and she's like, "Hey, dude, you, what do the werewolves want with you?" And he's like, "I don't know anything about a fucking werewolf, man, and I don't appreciate you taking me to this weird place." And she's like, "Well, I got some bad news for you there, pumpkin." And she's like, "I'm a vampire, and war between vampires and werewolves, and now you're caught in the middle because they clearly want you for some damn reason, and I'm not going to let them have you because, well, I don't want them getting what they want because I don't like werewolves." And then she's like, "So yeah, you're just going to hang here." So he's like, "Oh, okay." Now we get some more bullshit here with the vampire politics. There's a hot blonde that really wants to get on Craven. Craven doesn't want anything to do with her because he wants to get on Celine. The blonde is trying to like usurp Celine out of this, even though Craven doesn't want anything to do with the blonde. So the blonde comes in and she's like, "Ooh, everybody's just buzzing about your new pet human and what's his deal?" And Celine's like, "I don't know. Werewolves want him. I don't want the werewolves to have him. That's all I know, man." So the blonde is looking at Michael and sees that he's been bit by a werewolf. He's got the big pulsating claw marks on his shoulder there. She freaks right out and jumps up to the ceiling.
Like a cat.
There is a lot of that. A lot of hissing in this. Come on. Get the fuck out of here. Come on. You're a vampire. Act like it. Come on. Hissing at people. Oh, Craven is now right pissed off. He doesn't know that she brought a lichen home yet, but he will. Michael freaks right out, jumps out the window into the rain in the night, and goes running off again. The blonde goes and gets Celine. She's like, "Hey, man, he just took off. And by the way, I don't know if you knew this. He's a goddamn werewolf." And she's like, "What the what?" So she gets in the car and goes try to find him. The blonde then goes and tells Craven about Celine bringing the old lichen right back into the house there. So he's right pissed off also. So right about now, though, Craven finds himself in quite the predicament because the envoy for Emil. Okay, I'm gonna have to explain this now because we're going back into vampire mythology. So what we're having here is a changing of the guard, so to speak, because there's 3 elders that govern all the vampires. Okay, you got Amelia, Victor, and Marcus. Now these 3 kind of leapfrog their way through time in 100-year chunks. So one of them's awake, the other 2 are asleep for 100 years. That's how it goes. Right now it's Amelia's turn. Apparently she lives in New York. And it's just about time for her to change it over to Marcus. So she's going to come back to the big pretentious mansion, get in her little tomb, get put in the ground, and then Marcus gets to wake up and deal with all this horse shit. Now, her envoy has arrived a couple days ahead of her, so Craven has to put on a big spiel for them and formally welcome them to the, "Hey, you're a vampire? Me too. Right on, man." It's a bunch of pretentious crap. It's fine. It's what you would expect vampires to act like. I will say that because I feel like they would. And he comes out rocking a sequins shirt at one point.
Yeah.
You're going to the gay bar, Craven. That's what you're
That
doing.
reminded me of what was that place called? Studio 54.
A little bit.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit. Just without anybody having any actual fun. I felt like people had fun at Studio 54. Here, all they do is sit around and snub each other. That's the party I want to go to. All right. So he's kind of under a little bit of pressure here. Celine is now full on curious. She's like, "What the fuck? Why do they want Corvinus or this Michael Corvin? What do they want with him? What's going on with all this shit?" Something doesn't feel right because Craven keeps cock blocking her every time she tries to do something about this, and she's getting zero support from her higher ups, Craven. And she's not really, she kind of feels like he's being elusive about the whole fucking thing, which he is. So she's on her own now. She goes out and reconnects with Michael. Actually, Michael comes back to the old mansion there the next night because now he's having splitting headaches. He's getting these visions of somebody chained to the floor. He feels like he's really been hit by a truck. He tries to go back to work and get his buddy at the hospital to help him. And his buddy's like, "Hey, there's cops here looking for you." And Michael's like, "Peace out, homeboy." So he goes back to the mansion because he doesn't have anywhere else to go. So Celine comes out, grabs him. They go for a little ride in the car there. And this is where she breaks the whole thing down for him. So now he's up to speed. They decide they're going to keep Michael safe by putting him in this weird vampire safe house that they have set up somewhere else in town. Take him there. It's like an old abandoned building, of course. One of the upper apartments is like this weird, kind of look like a CIA interrogation thing. Had like a chair with you're chained into it and stuff, and a bunch of blood and stuff. She chains him to the chair. She's like, "Hey man, you're a werewolf now. It's almost the full moon, which means you're gonna probably fuck some shit up. So I'm gonna go ahead and chain you down. Here's a gun. It's got a bullet or a silver bullet. Go ahead and put it in your mouth if you feel like you're gonna, freak right out or something. It's not going to kill you, but it will slow down the werewolf thing. So let's do that. He's like, yeah, shit, all right, that's what I'll do. At that point, Celine goes back to the coven, or the coven. They call it a coven in this movie. She goes back to the coven, the big mansion, and she's like, all right, I've got the trump card hidden in the safe house across town. I don't know what the fuck is going on here. Craven's not helping me. Nobody else is helping me. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wake up my dad, Victor. Oh, and he is the third elder that is supposed to be asleep for another 100 years. I'm going to wake him up because I don't know who else to talk to about this shit, and I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble for doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't know what to do. So the waking up of an elder is a very complicated process. You got to know a bunch of passwords and usernames, and you got to probably do like a handprint thing or something. The tomb comes out of the ground, and then there's like a whole machinery steampunk thing going on. He's got a bunch of tubes going into him. You got to put blood in there, and then eventually he starts waking up. He looks like a California raisin coming out of the ground. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Just not playing a saxophone. Normally they play saxophones. This one was not, in fact, playing a saxophone. He comes out of the ground. He's all groggy and pissed off.
Blade or Celine?
In a fight?
Blade versus
Alan.
Celine, yeah.
I think I go... that's a fucking tough one, man. I go Celine, I think.
Me too.
Yeah.
What do you think, Celine?
Yeah, Celine.
That's 3 for Celine, Alan. Let us know what you think, inmates. Who would win in a fight between Blade and Celine? The fight that I've always wanted to see was Blade versus Riddick. I think that would be a better fight.
Oh.
Yeah? I don't know. That's something to think about. Anyway. So now Victor's awake, and here comes Craven. He's like, sorry, my lord, I didn't know that somebody's... And he's like, what is all this ruckus? He acts drunk, too, for a while, right? A little bit, he's like,
Well, he just woke up out of a
I know, he's groggy, but I don't know.
I'm hungry.
So Celine hauls ass again because Craven has put her under vampire arrest or something like that. So the hot blonde turns off the power to the coven and lets her go because she's like, I'm not helping you, I'm helping me. Now get out of here. So Celine hauls ass. Victor's like, where is Celine? And Craven's like, she took off, man. I don't know. And I don't know why she woke you up either, by the way. He's like, well, she has shown me a great many things that are disturbing to me. Sorry, it's a terrible impression, I know.
Almost.
Yeah?
Yeah, almost.
So Craven's all fired. He's like, I think I might be in a lot of trouble here, actually. So he sends his guys to go find Celine. Problem is, Amelia's in the house. Amelia just showed up on a train, so he had to call his guys back to go escort Amelia off the train to bring them to the old chantry. Now.
Hi, Troy.
Hey, Troy.
Hey, Troy.
A paranormal ambassador of the padded room. So the problem is someone constipated. That's what he sounded like, Troy. He sounded constipated. So anyway, but at the last minute, they have a security detachment that's supposed to do just this job. Craven at the last minute says, no, it's Khan. It's the weapons guy. He's like, no, you guys stay here. I'm going to send my best friend Soren over there. He's going to take care of this. Soren goes over to the train station with his team. Amelia's train pulls up, and sure as shit, a whole pack of pissed off werewolves just rush the train and kill all the vampires, while Soren's team just stands there and watches. Okay, now this is interesting. Now I'm wondering what's going on. So right about now, there's a meeting between Soren and the boss werewolf, guy by the name of Lucien. We're going to get a little backstory on this Lucien character here in a second. What we're finding out is that the history... Who's this guy?
Alan.
I don't believe that they poop, Alan. I could be wrong. I don't know how the central nervous system of a vampire works. Anyway, the thing is that at the start of the war, Craven supposedly went and killed Lucien, who was at that time he was one of the first werewolves. Killed him, cut the tattoo off his arm to show everybody that he killed him. And that's how Craven kind of rose to power. Now, obviously, it didn't go down that way because Lucien is here and he's alive, and these two are having a pretty civil conversation. So they sit down in the car and they're talking, and this is where we find out that Craven is actually working with the Lycans. And by that, I mean he's kind of brokered this deal where they're going to help him rise to power by eliminating the competition. And then once Craven is instated as like the king of the vampires, then he will then broker a peace treaty with the werewolves that will last centuries. Who's talking shit over here?
It's a shitty conversation.
All right. You guys enjoy yourselves. So that's what's going on. Now we know the full extent of what Craven... But that's what I'm saying. Craven was like the only guy trying to end the war in this entire fucking movie. All Celine wanted to do was kill more werewolves. The werewolves were trying to create like a secret weapon against the vampires. Craven's the only one trying to stop everybody from killing everybody. And hopefully nail Celine in the process. I think he's the good guy in this equation. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that's what happens. Right about now, the werewolves they have to like the vampires have to position their people now because they find out that Celine or Amelia has been hit. Not only that, but the werewolves made it out of there with a good amount of Amelia's blood, which is what they needed to put into Michael to make him this weird hybrid situation. Mm-hmm. So the werewolves get out of there. Celine gets to the safe house because she wants to get Michael out of there just as the werewolves get there too. Mm-hmm. Another big firefight, and Michael ends up jumping out of the window. Apparently the cops were actually working for the werewolves because he jumps out of the window. He's a little, out of it. The cops grab him. They're down there waiting for him. They grab him, throw him in the back of the car, and haul ass. Mm-hmm. As they're taking off across town, he starts to change because it's a full moon, and he doesn't know how to control it yet. They get him back to the werewolf underground base, or whatever it is, and that's where our Nazi doctor gets to start experimenting on Michael. So he hits him with the Amelia's blood, and then he becomes like this hybrid thing. So, right about now, because unfortunately, Celine was unable to rescue Michael there. She has to go back to the coven now and explain herself to Victor. Gets back there, Victor's like, hey man, I love you like a daughter, but you really fucked up this time. Mm-hmm. You woke me up 100 years too early, and you're showing me a bunch of nonsense, and I don't know what to make of any of this. And then she explains the whole thing, and he's like, well, that's interesting, but you still fucked up, and you're going to be punished. But I will offer you this. If you can kill Michael, the human hybrid, then I will clear the books and Craven will pay for everything he's done. And she's like, oh, I don't know about that shit. Because they kissed once, Monica. Mm-hmm. Which means... Mm-hmm. It was in the rain, though. So that's like a double down.
What does the rain have to do
I don't
with
know.
it?
Chicks love making out in the rain, Monica.
Oh, that has nothing to do with it.
You would not... That wouldn't make you hot in the panties?
No.
Make out in the rain?
No. Michael's chest was...
It was the chest.
It was all...
He's in pretty good... He was in pretty good shape, Scott Speedman, in 2003. I don't know what he looks like today. You look like he was in good shape in The Strangers, too, right? If he wasn't acting like such a pussy the whole time.
Oh, yeah. I can't think of him in that movie.
All right, then. Anyway, so that's kind of like the deal. Celine brings the Nazi doctor back. She captured him, takes him back, explains the whole thing to Victor. Victor now knows the whole score. So they go down to the old werewolf den where we get another great big firefight between all of them. Victor's there this time. Michael's there. He's now a full-on hybrid. Celine is there. Craven's there. Craven gets stabbed in the leg. Lucien gets shot with silver nitrate rounds, which pretty much kills him. But then he stabs Craven in the leg with that weird fucking forearm sword thing that he has. Mm-hmm. Craven then spills the beans to Celine about what really happened the night she became a vampire. She remembers a bunch of Lycans attacking her family, killing everybody in it, except for her, and then Victor coming in at the last minute to save her, and then he made her a vampire, and she's hated werewolves ever since.
Victor's story.
Craven tells her the truth, that it was actually Victor that killed her whole family, and kind of blamed the Lycans, and then thus made her into like his impromptu daughter, and raised her to be this big werewolf assassin type of a chick. So she's like, oh, he's so full of shit. And then right about that time is when Victor actually walks in and she's like, hey, you know what he just told me? And he's like, yeah, but I made you a vampire, so we're kind of even, right? And about that time is when Michael kind of realizes what he is. First, he turns into like a werewolf, but then he kind of goes back into human a little bit. He ends up looking like this black devil kind of a thing. Demon looking, gnarly customer of this guy.
Yeah.
Big sword fight between him and Victor. Well, Michael doesn't need a sword. He just like claws the shit out of him. They're going back and forth. Victor's putting up a pretty good fight for an old guy. But then at the end, Selena sneaks up on him with her sword and like bisects him. And then Michael and Selene go taking off.
Alan says Underworld is a good vampire movie, but not as good as Blood on the Highway.
That's right.
Alan, why don't you ask Shelley about that? See what she says.
What, Shelley? You don't like that movie?
And that is pretty much the end of your movie, kids. What did you guys think of Underworld?
Oh, I've always liked
Yeah, it
this
was good
movie.
I like it. I don't know that I call it a horror movie, but I think it's still a good movie either way. Have you guys seen the entire franchise?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been so long.
I think Rise of the Lycans was my favorite, which actually did not have Kate Beckinsale.
That was the other chick that looked like her.
Rona
Right.
Mitra.
Yeah.
And she
She's
is
hot.
screaming
Yes, she is.
hot. That one's probably my favorite. Awakening isn't bad. That's the one where Selene comes out of the cryo chamber or whatever it is and realizes that like the werewolves are now fully in control of everything and she's got to reorganize the vampires somehow.
I haven't watched
Michelle
this
says,
last
not watching
one.
that shit.
Thank you, Shelley.
Come on!
I am on Team Shelley.
The one guy in the movie, I don't know why. What's his name? I can't say it.
Lucian?
Yes, he. Every time I see him or think of him, it brings back Steve Buscemi from Airheads.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a
So
pretty strong
funny.
resemblance. If he had like a big bandana on,
Yeah.
that would be him, totally.
This is a great movie.
It's a good show, and it's a great start to a franchise. And it's very. I feel like it's like a video game almost.
Yeah.
With all the firefights and stuff. Are there any Underworld video games that anybody knows about? Because I'd love to play them. If there are, I don't know of any. Maybe I'll
I
Google
don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the costumes in it I thought were fantastic. The werewolves looked great.
Love themselves some trench coats.
Yes.
I don't think you could be anywhere near the production of this film unless you had a trench coat on.
Yeah.
If you got too close, they would issue you one to wear just for the duration.
If I had one on and tried to fight, I'd
trip over it. I would trip right over it. I would somehow get it wrapped around my own neck and choke myself out. I'm sure.
Just gun out of here.
Where's my shoe? My shoe just came off.
This remind me of a mix of like Blade and Matrix.
Yeah, totally. See that. All right, inmates, that's it for Underworld. Why don't we take us a little break and we'll come back with some other stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
I guess bye.
Oh, we got a minute or two.
Oh,
we can
okay.
stay live.
One came out in Europe.
One what? It was a PS2 and only in Europe. Oh, man.
Oh, okay, for the game.
I'm sure there's like an iOS thing you can do, right? Something?
Yeah,
Anything?
probably.
Something.
Computer game?
You would think that doesn't make any sense because I own the Van Helsing game, so
There's a Van Helsing game?
yeah, for PlayStation.
For that shitty movie?
Yeah.
Oh, God. They made a video game for that, but not Underworld.
I
Get the
know,
fuck
but
out of here.
that's why I'm like, if they made that game, why wouldn't they have made an Underworld?
That's how I know there is no God.
I think there is an Underworld game.
There has to be. Or at least a card game or
And I
something,
can
right?
almost see the image. I'm going to Google it.
Monopoly.
I'm going to Google that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Underworld Monopoly. Shit. I got 3 shitty nightclubs. You landed on one, you owe me some blood or something.
That's right.
Fucking fuck.
Van Helsing was a shitty game.
Yeah, it was a shitty movie too, Alan. So it's only fitting that they stay consistent.
You know, Alan, what my favorite one was, how am I going to be stupid right now? Medieval.
Where you were the little guy in the
Yeah, and you
knight's armor?
Yes,
I remember that.
I love that game.
That was silly.
I still play those
That
games.
was silly. There was like 3 vampire games that came out. I think they were called Legacy of Kain. and you're like a vampire, but you have like your lower jaw missing. So
Yeah.
you just wear like a bandana over your face, and you got the fangs that come out.
I remember those.
Yeah, those were my favorites. They're pretty good games.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us again this week. Happy anniversary to us, I guess.
Yeah,
not.
happy
I probably shouldn't be
anniversary.
saying that.
And happy Halloween.
And happy Halloween.
Definitely.
Also,
we want to hear about your Halloween stories.
show us your costumes, as
Yeah.
slutty as they may be.
Yeah. And flash us if you
Yeah.
want to.
She'll
Yeah.
flash you. I got too much. I can't be
Yeah,
five.
he can't flash you.
It would take me like 25 minutes to get a nipple out. I can't do it.
No, we can cut a hole in your shirt.
Oh, let's do that.
Your wife would be very happy about it.
I wouldn't.